Hello and welcome to Week 1, Unit 4 of our Open SAP course, SAP Fiori Overview. In the last unit, you saw a high-level architecture of how all the pieces in our UX portfolio fit together and how they combine to deliver a great user experience. This week, we're going to go through some of those components in detail, and I'll offer you some guidance on when to use which. We'll come back to these topics again in Week 3. So far, we've talked about the SAP Fiori experience and why it matters. In other words, we've covered what and why. In this unit, we're going to introduce the how. As with many situations in SAP, there are several options. We'll talk about how to identify your situation and choose the shortest and lowest risk path to the SAP Fiori user experience. We'll cover all the boxes on this grid, but mostly focus on the ones for developing new apps, which comprise the right side of the diagram. Before you build an app, you should check to see if one already exists that does what you need. The SAP Fiori App Reference Library includes all the Fiori apps that SAP provides out of the box. The nice thing is that you can search for what you need based on industry, line of business, or individual role. You can also search based on whether you're running ECC or S/4HANA, as well as what your underlying database is if you're on ECC. Your answers determine how many Fiori apps are available to you. The general range is hundreds for ECC systems and thousands for SAP S/4HANA systems. We'll cover how to download and deploy these apps in the next unit on deploying SAP Fiori apps. If one of these apps that you download doesn't meet your needs, we have tools that allow you to modify them to do exactly what you want. For simple changes, SAP UI5 for key users provides a non-coding option where a key user can hide fields or move information around on the screen. For more extensive changes to an app from the Fiori App Reference Library, you can use our development tools to extend the functionality or fine-tune the appearance. As you move towards becoming an intelligent enterprise, it's very likely that you'll need to build your own apps to address your unique business needs. This will be the focus for the majority of this unit. To build any app, you need a development environment, often referred to as an IDE or integrated development environment. SAP has its own IDE optimized for building SAP Fiori applications. This is SAP Business Application Studio, the next generation of Web IDE. The App Studio is a modular environment tailored for efficient development of business applications for the intelligent enterprise. It offers a growing set of turnkey solutions based on dev spaces, which are isolated virtual machines in the cloud, where each solution comes prepackaged with runtimes and tools that are suited for a specific application, such as the Fiori user experience, S/4HANA extensions, and more. This saves you days of setting up tools and handling dependencies, allowing you to focus on your business domain. SAP Business Application Studio simplifies end-to-end development. Develop, test, build, run, and deploy. Its desktop-like experience provides fast development cycles. You can install runtimes and tools, run scripts, and access the shell through the command line. Its experience is familiar with leading IDEs, which makes you feel right at home as soon as you start using it. SAP Business Application Studio is available on SAP's multi-cloud environment. All you need is a browser. There's no need to install any software on your local machine to develop SAP Fiori apps. If you do prefer to use a local IDE, SAP has tools that work in that environment too. When you're building apps, it's critically important that users have the same experience across all their devices. SAP UI5 is a framework that includes libraries of controls, or UI elements, that developers use to build responsive web applications. The pre-built UI elements allow you to create the SAP Fiori experience, including some controls that are automatically configured by annotations to data on the back end. This gives you complete flexibility to create apps that can meet any of your business users' needs. A common set of controls helps deliver a consistent user experience by sharing a common foundation. With SAP UI5, you can write an application once and have it adapt to the device, rendering perfectly regardless of the screen size. The UI built with the SAP UI5 is independent of the platform you're using it with, whether it's on-premise or in the cloud. The UI connects via an OData service to consume data from that respective platform. While SAP UI5 gives you ultimate flexibility in building web apps, sometimes you need to build many apps that look similar in a short time frame, often with multiple globally distributed development teams. This is where SAP Fiori Elements comes in. In a nutshell, SAP Fiori Elements is a library built on top of SAP UI5. The main idea behind SAP Fiori Elements is that the content of the screens is generated at runtime based on metadata coming from the back end. This means very little code and sometimes no code that's required for standard apps. SAP Fiori Elements is a collection of several common page types that give you a head start on developing applications that connect to data in SAP backend systems. These 5 basic page types cover 80% of the scenarios typically found in SAP applications. We use this approach internally to build apps for SAP S/4HANA. The diagram illustrates the typical flow for a user where you start at the launch pad, go to an overview page, see some sort of list of objects that eventually links to details on an object page or a nested set of object pages. For some situations, you might go directly from a title on the launch pad to a list report or potentially even directly to an object page. Using this set of basic page types ensures that the apps you build are consistent in how they look and behave. Since the user experience is defined in terms of the page layout, navigation, and format of the controls, you can develop apps much more quickly than coding each of these UI5 elements manually. This means you can scale across your organization by building dozens or even hundreds of SAP Fiori apps that look similar, even if they're built by different development teams. Like SAP UI5, on which Fiori Elements is based, you start with an OData service. We'll talk about what this is later and again in week 3. With SAP Fiori Elements, you generate a standard app and then use metadata annotations to modify it to suit your needs. While SAP Fiori Elements reduces the amount of code developers need to write, SAP Fiori Tools aims to simplify the app development process even further. SAP Fiori Tools is a collection of productivity tools that make software developers more efficient when developing SAP Fiori apps. SAP Fiori Tools is an extension to Visual Studio Code or SAP Business Application Studio. If you're creating software on one of these development environments, SAP Fiori Tools provides shortcuts to common functions involved in writing or modifying SAP Fiori apps. An integrated experience sets the foundation for a successful project. SAP Fiori Tools helps you define your project requirements at the beginning of the project, gives developers an efficient and effective development experience, and enables continuous improvement via application monitoring. SAP Fiori Tools provides developers with guided help, code snippets, and integrated application generation and preview to make them more efficient when developing SAP Fiori apps. Integrated modeling capabilities let you leverage the advantages of a metadata-driven development process, which is how SAP Fiori Elements works. Annotations are metadata that define properties or relationships in your data. One quick example of an annotation might be a number and description that are related to each other, such as always displaying the value of an order associated with its associated currency. So, the quantity $9.89 and the units dollars would always appear together. Annotations allow you to give your application the functionality and appearance you need. We mentioned OData services as the starting point for SAP UI5 and SAP Fiori Elements apps. This is also the data source for native mobile apps. With SAP S/4HANA, there are many OData services available out of the box from SAP. If you need to build your own, we have two main options depending on whether you're planning to develop on SAP Cloud Platform or using ABAP. Regardless of whether you choose the Cloud Application Programming Model, also known as CAP, or the ABAP RESTful Programming Model, known as RAP, you can connect your backend SAP data source and use the resulting OData service as the foundation for your SAP Freestyle app, Fiori Elements app, or native mobile app. Each of these two frameworks consists of concepts, technologies, and tools providing support for developing enterprise-grade OData-based services and applications, either as extensions or new software. We'll go into more depth about CAP and RAP in week 3 and show you how to create an OData service using these powerful tools. While the ability to run your app on any device give you lots of flexibility, sometimes people who work remotely, such as sales, field service, or maintenance workers, need a user experience on their mobile device that can only be provided by a native mobile app. Some examples include if your users are mobile by nature, so your app is an integrated part of their daily workflow, or people use their app as their main workplace, such as if they don't have a fixed office. Mobile apps are great when the application needs to cover heavy offline scenarios. Maybe you have some large data sets that need to be available for offline usage and manipulation. Or your employees work in areas with poor network or non-existent network coverage. Another place where native mobile apps shine is when people need to use the app frequently. And we're not talking about every week or every month, we're talking daily or several times a day. Finally, consider native mobile apps if your users need an app that covers key workflows that need to be performed fast. That is, it would significantly slow down the users if the app was slow or laggy. You don't want frustrated users. Native mobile apps have a few distinct advantages over browser-based apps. They provide a native look and feel that's sometimes difficult to replicate using a mobile browser. Also, they can access native device capabilities such as the camera or GPS. We often see these used in warehouse, plant maintenance, and field service applications. These scenarios benefit from a dedicated mobile app. As always, SAP has options. With the SAP Cloud Platform SDK for iOS, the SAP Cloud Platform SDK for Android, and a mobile development kit that can develop code to run on either platform. The MDK is built on top of the iOS and Android SDKs. Again, we'll go into more depth about mobile development in week 3 of this course. Earlier, we mentioned you don't always need to build an app to provide the SAP Fiori experience to your employees. If there's not an app in the SAP Fiori reference library to fill your requirements, perhaps the functionality of what you need exists in the form of a SAP GUI transaction, but the transaction doesn't meet your needs because it's hard to use, the screen is too cluttered, or the business process takes too many clicks. This could be the case in either SAP S/4HANA or ECC. If this is your situation, then SAP Screen Personas might be the right solution for your needs. Consider the example on the screen of a classic list transaction, VAO5 to search sales orders. You start with a search transaction on one screen and the results on another. If you need to search again, you have to toggle back and forth across these two screens. The simplified screen on the right, built in less than an hour, puts the search and results on a single screen using the Fiori experience. We've even added a chart that shows visually the results of your query. Screen Personas allows you to simplify and modernize SAP GUI screens and convert them to Fiori apps that run on any device, all using a drag and drop, what you see is what you get editor that runs in your browser. We'll demo this in week 3 to show you how easy it is to create a simplified version of SAP GUI transactions. SAP Screen Personas delivers the complete Fiori user experience since you can build screens for each role, apply the built-in Fiori themes, templates, and styles, embed these simplified screens, which we call flavors, into your Fiori Launchpad. Bringing together all the ways to create the SAP Fiori experience in a browser, here's some guidance. If you need a mobile app, skip this decision tree and jump straight into one of the mobile app development tools that we just discussed. First, start by understanding your user's needs. This is a key part of the design process that we covered in the earlier unit. Then, determine if they need an app for an existing business scenario or something new. If there's an app available that meets their exact needs, download it. If it's pretty close but needs a little bit of adjustment, you can do this with SAP UI5 Flexibility, SAP Business Application Studio, or SAP Web IDE. If you can reuse business logic that already exists in a SAP GUI transaction, then SAP Screen Personas is your answer. For new scenarios, determine if one of the standard floor plans in Fiori Elements meets your needs. If it does, follow that approach. If you need to start from scratch with a completely custom business process, building an app using SAP UI5 will be your best answer. Not all user experiences will involve a traditional screen-based GUI. SAP also has tools to build conversational experiences. SAP Conversational AI offers 2 products to help you revolutionize your user experience: an end-to-end bot building platform to build intelligent chatbots that streamline employee tasks and simplify customer service. Also, we have a unified enterprise digital assistant offering a conversational experience for SAP users. Both of these are outside the scope of this course, as we will focus on the designing, developing, and deploying of traditional web-based or native SAP Fiori apps. Today, we talked about some of the tools that SAP, our customers, and partners use to build Fiori apps. You learned about several different approaches to delivering the SAP Fiori experience, some with coding and some without, such as SAP UI5 Flexibility. You learned about building freestyle apps and accelerating the app development process with Fiori Elements. You learned when to use native mobile apps for specialized use cases. You learned that there are 2 ways to create the OData service that powers these apps. And you learned you can transform SAP GUI transactions into intuitive SAP Fiori apps with Screen Personas. In the next unit, we'll discuss how to get SAP Fiori up and running.